Hey everybody, Bacon here, and today I got something a bit different for you. So the last few videos I've made have been talking about sort of like the more broad ideas in Hearthstone, such as card design, the way the esports system works, things like that. And today we're going to bring it back from the broad conceptual things to more focused on the actual game, but not particularly like a deck guide. This is going to be something more you can apply to any facet of Hearthstone. Whatever you're playing, this will be something that you can use. And the idea that we're going to talk about today is how to read your opponent's hand and what you can do with that. So, something if you do watch the esports side of Hearthstone, you'll know that often the casters are talking about stuff like, oh, player A has been holding this card for a really long time. Maybe player B can have an idea that it is card X, Y, or Z, and then they start playing around it. And you hear this a lot, but a lot of people, they might not understand exactly how you come to these assumptions, right? It just sort of seems like magic. Just like how do they know that? How are they going to find this out? And so I got some tips on how you can do this. But before we start, I'm just going to lay down a few assumptions that we're going to be making here. When you're trying to read someone's hand and get information from it, you have to assume, one, that they are a good player who is playing to win. So that means they're not going to be making very many mistakes. Because a lot of reading someone's hand comes down to knowing what they should be doing with their cards. And if a player is actively making mistakes, then they're feeding you misinformation. So this is the type of trick that really works best at a high level of play, but you can always apply it. It's always good to try and get this information. So we're going to get into a game, and let's try and show this in action. So the most important thing about reading someone's hand is asking yourself the question of what is their best possible option on every turn. So your best possible option on the mulligan is well, we're playing against a warrior, right? So we're probably assuming that they're a pirate warrior. And on the mulligan, their best possible hand would be Nizas First Mate, and then follow that up with the new 1/2 pirate that gains attack when you have a weapon. I forget what it's called. So that's what their sort of best case draw is going to be. So we're going to do our mulligan, keeping the blood to Icar because we're going second, and see what they get. So they kept 2 cards. So really, in an ideal world, okay, yeah, they got the small time Buccaneer, and then they probably have maybe a War Axe to follow this up. So that's what we're going to assume the second card is here, because they played the first card they kept. We're assuming the second card is going to be a Fiery War Axe. So with that information, does that change our play? Do we still Blood to Icar this, or do we maybe...
What now?
I think assuming that they have the Fiery War Axe, we probably Blood to Icar. And let's see what they have.
Fly, Polly.
Okay, so it was a Nizas First Mate, and they're going face with that. Okay, so that's another piece of information. If they had a Fiery War Axe, they probably would have played that instead, right? So we know not only that the first card that they kept wasn't a Fiery War Axe, but we know that all of these other cards are not a Fiery War Axe. So since they don't have a Fiery War Axe, we can pretty safely play down the Armor Smith because it won't. If they are going to trade into it, they need to trade out the Small Time Buccaneer, which we're pretty happy with. We'll gain 2 armor off that and take out their biggest threat on the board. So what's their best possible play here? Best possible play would not have been Dread Corsair, right? So they play this out real quick, and their best possible play, I believe, would have been the 3/4 pirate that would have buffed their weapon. So either they don't have that, or they're maybe not wanting to buff this up so that they can play an Arcanite Reaper on turn 5. So how do we want to do this? So here we can just Ravaging Ghoul, clear out 2 of these minions. We can't take out the Dread Corsair though, but I believe Ravaging Ghoul is probably the best play. Going into turn 4, their best possible option would be not what I was thinking. So I was thinking maybe the 4/3 Charger, Corcoran Elite. So we can fairly safely say that they do not have the Corcoran Elite. So since they don't have the Corcoran Elite, we feel a lot safer playing out the Bloodhoof Brave, right? Because the Corcoran Elite would get a great trade into here. You take it down to 2 health, trade in the Hobart, and then you can continue to go face with this while keeping a 4/1 alive. But since we think that they don't have that Corcoran Elite, we feel a lot safer just throwing this down. So this would still be a situation where their best play is Corcoran Elite. Or possibly Arcanite Reaper. That's their second best play. So our life total is getting a little low, but we still do have, some buffer. We're probably going to want to fit in the Battle Rage. I'm thinking maybe Corcoran into the 2/2 coin Battle Rage. The other option is we could just do Armor Smith Frothing Berserker. Maybe that's better because it forces them to trade into us. And if not, then we can Corcoran next turn and get a bigger Battle Rage. Let's go for that play. So the best option here is undoubtedly an Arcanite Reaper, right? Arcanite Reaper upgrade. And they do not have it. So what are the cards they could have here? Okay. That's pretty bad for them.
Strike.
So what do we think this last card is? It's something that they wanted to play less than a 4-mana Dread Corsair. So we know that. So I'm guessing it's maybe the Mortal Strike. Or no, it's probably the Mortal Strike. So we can play around that now. We definitely don't want to put them below 12.
Strike.
Nice. strike. Sharp gadgets and steel.
So if we think that is the Mortal Strike, they can they can use it to trade in here. Heroic Strike. Do they have the Mortal Strike? If they do, they're not playing it yet. Oh, it was a Soci deckhand. Okay, so they were saving that because it had, because they couldn't get the charge off it. So now, since they don't have any cards, we can't really make a read on their hand. We can make a read based on the predictions of what they could draw, but they do still have a pretty thick deck left.
I wonder.
So I think here we just make a board of patrons because there's no way they can kill us with one card and 4 damage. And here we pretty much just win.
Everyone, get in here! Everyone,
We don't want to make two health patrons. We'd rather make the 1/5/1 instead of the because these would just trap them. And from here, I think there's pretty much no way we lose. I have 8, 11, 13. So we don't quite have lethal.
let the pain speak to me. Fire on! Everyone, get in here! Everyone, get in here!
We continue to play around the Mortal Strike, but we were proven wrong about our prediction that they had it. So yeah, I think there's no way we lose this. And well. So a lot of the predictions you can make in game end up being not predictions of exactly what they do have. You can make deductions though, so you won't know 100%. But by examining what is their best play, and then if they have it or not, you can find out they don't have X, they don't have Y, they don't have Z, and then this gets particularly useful as you get later in the game because as the decks get smaller, you think if they don't have this, that, and the other thing, then they must have they must have something else, right? Every card in their hand is something that was deliberately put there on purpose. So the most important thing you can do to read someone's hand is to be asking yourself these questions of, do they are they doing the best play, the strongest play for that turn, and then you can deduce what they have or don't have in their hand. The other thing to note is that to do this correctly, you're going to have to one, know very well what type of things are going to be on their deck. You don't have to know like an exact read of the 30 cards they have in their deck, but you have to have a good idea, right? You have to be able to make these predictions on pretty good information. And the other thing you have to do is you have to spend a lot of time watching on your opponent's turn. The thing that inspired me to make this video was actually a Reddit comment from someone I saw complaining about streamers who rope their entire turn because they're talking to chat. And they said, why don't you just talk to chat on my turn? Why do you do it on your turn when you're wasting my time? Why don't you do it on my turn? Because you don't need to pay attention on my turn, right? And that is so unbelievably not true. In fact, it's probably more important to pay attention on your opponent's turn than your own. Because on your own turn, it's very quick to find out sort of the optimal play. But if you're not watching your opponent's hand, if you're not keeping track of, oh, they kept this card since turn 3, or they kept this card in the mulligan, but they haven't played it yet. So what is that? If you're not paying attention to those little cues, then you miss out on a lot of important information. So the takeaway is watch your opponent's hand, watch their turn, and don't alt tab to Reddit when it's your opponent's turn. So let me know what you think of this video. I'm going to try and do more like gameplay focused tips in the future. And yeah, have a good day. See you guys next time.